Topic number 8. United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, or UNCRPD. Input. What is UNCRPD? It was adopted in December 2006 and entry into force in May 2008. Although international human rights conventions already exist and have a blanket protection for everyone, including those with disabilities, the sector still faces discrimination and remains invisible in human rights and development discourse. The UNCRPD does not create new human rights for persons with disabilities. Rather, it clarifies, specifies, and underscores the state obligation on how to promote, protect, and ensure the rights of persons with disabilities on an equal basis with others. Nothing about us without us is the mantra of persons with disabilities during and after the development and adoption of UNCRPD. There was a wide and significant participation of OPDs in the creation of the UNCRPD. The Philippine government ratified the UNCRPD on May 15, 2008. Every 4 years, the Philippine government must submit its state report on the status of the implementation of the UNCRPD to the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Organizations of persons with disabilities and CSOs monitor the implementation and submit a parallel report to the committee. It should be noted that the Philippine government has not ratified the optional protocol yet. UNCRPD provides a paradigm shift from persons with disabilities as objects of charity and medical treatment to persons with disabilities as subject of rights. The UNCRPD is the guiding framework in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Content of UNCRPD. A. Preamble. Gives general context to the convention and identifies important background issues. B. Purpose. Sets out the goal of the convention, which is to promote, protect, and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms of all persons with disabilities, and to promote respect for their inherent dignity. C. Definitions. Define key terms in the convention, namely communication, language, discrimination based on disability, reasonable accommodation, and universal design. D. General principles. Identify the standards or imperatives that apply to the enjoyment of all rights in the convention, such as the principle of non-discrimination and the principle of equality. E. Obligations. Clarify the steps that states must take to promote, protect, and ensure the rights in the convention. F. Specific rights. Identify the existing civil, cultural, economic, political, and social human rights, affirming that persons with disabilities also hold those rights. G. Enabling measures. Identify specific steps that states must take to ensure an enabling environment for the enjoyment of human rights, namely awareness raising, ensuring accessibility, ensuring protection and safety in situations of risk and humanitarian emergencies, promoting access to justice, ensuring personal mobility, enabling habilitation and rehabilitation, and collecting statistics and data. H. International cooperation. Recognizes the importance of the international community working together to ensure the full enjoyment of the rights of persons with disabilities. I. Implementation and monitoring. Requires states to establish national frameworks for monitoring and implementing the convention, and establishes a conference of states parties to consider any matter in relation to implementation of the convention, and the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to monitor the convention. J. Final clauses. Set out the procedures for signature, ratification, entering into force, and other procedural requirements relevant to the convention. Discrimination on the basis of disability. Any distinction, exclusion, or restriction on the basis of disability, which has the purpose or effect of impairing or nullifying the recognition, enjoyment, or exercise on an equal basis with others of all human rights and fundamental freedoms in the political, economic, social, cultural, civil, or any other field. It includes all forms of discrimination, including denial of reasonable accommodation. Article 3. General Principles. The principles of the present convention shall be: A. Respect for inherent dignity, individual autonomy, including the freedom to make one's own choices, and independence of persons. Inherent dignity refers to the worth of every person. The experiences and views of persons with disabilities are respected and valued without the fear of any kind of harm, such as physical, emotional, and/or psychological. Individual autonomy. Being in charge of one's life and having the freedom to make one's own choices. Persons with disabilities have reasonable life choices on an equal basis with others, are subject to minimum interference in their lives, and can make their own decisions with adequate support if required. Examples: 1. A queer person with cerebral palsy expresses their sexuality and actively promotes accessibility in LGBTQIA+ spaces. 2. A person with intellectual disability signed an employment contract that was made available in easy read format. B. Non-discrimination. It is a fundamental principle of all human rights treaties and the basis of UNCRPD. It essentially prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability. Denial of reasonable accommodation is disability-based discrimination. It is a combination of prohibiting discriminatory acts and taking steps to protect people with disabilities from direct and indirect forms of discrimination and promote equality, inclusion, and participation. Many persons with disabilities experience multiple forms of discrimination that must be addressed, like sex, gender, age, race, language, socioeconomic status, size, religion, beliefs, etc. Examples: 1. Republic Act 7277, or the Magna Carta for Persons with Disability, and its amendments prohibit verbal and non-verbal ridicule and vilification against persons with disabilities. 2. Republic Act 11650 aims that all learners with disabilities in the Philippines will have equal access and receive equitable support to basic primary and secondary education like their peers without disabilities. C. Full and effective participation and inclusion in society. Persons with disabilities are participating in both public and private spaces. They are part of the discussion and decision-making on all levels. It goes beyond consultation, but being able to express their opinions, influence, give feedback, and complain if participation is denied. Preconditions for participation are an inclusive and accessible environment. Examples: 1. ENAT Philippines has a cluster for persons with disabilities to support their formulation and advocacy of their sector-specific agenda. ENAT member organizations of persons with disabilities are also part of the National Advocacy Council. 2. The family member with physical impairment discussed with other family members the design and process of their house renovation to make it accessible. D. Respect for difference and acceptance of persons with disabilities as part of human diversity and humanity. Having an impairment and experiencing disability are both part of human diversity. People with disabilities are neither special nor require special treatment. The support they require just happens to be specific to them. All of us have similarities and differences. People with the same impairments may require different kinds of support too. Examples: 1. Two people with low vision are working in the same company. One of them prefers documents in large print, while the other requires it to be available in accessible digital format. 2. Data are disaggregated by sex, age, and disability. E. Equality of opportunity. Society and the environment are made available to all, including persons with disabilities. Equality doesn't always mean the same treatment. People may require specific support to equally access an opportunity. Examples: 1. A participant with visual impairment was given reasonable accommodation to be accompanied by a personal assistant during a training course to support their participation. The travel cost was shouldered by the organizers, plus income replacement to the participant with visual impairment. 2. During budget hearings, Filipino Sign Language interpreting services are available so deaf participants can take part in the discussions. F. Accessibility. Accessibility is not only physical access, but also in information and communication, ICT, availability of human support, among others. Accessibility must be present in all private and public dimensions. Laws and policies on accessibility must be regularly reviewed and updated with the active involvement of OPDs. And adequate resources must be given to fully implement and upgrade it. Accessibility must be for all persons with disabilities, regardless of sex, gender, age, and geographical location. Examples: 1. The Department of Transportation is conducting stakeholders' consultation on the updating of the implementing rules and regulations of the accessibility of public transportation. 2. TESDA contracted the services of an organization of persons with visual impairment specializing in digital accessibility to test, audit, and improve the accessibility of their website and its content. G. Equality between men and women. Equality of opportunity between men and women, girls and boys. UNCRPD emphasizes having a gender perspective in all states' policies, programs, and activities mainstream disability or disability-specific. There is still a need to further emphasize on people with diverse OGSC in terms of specifically mentioning them and concrete measures that their rights are promoted, protected, and ensured. Examples: 1. Reviewing gender and development budget and allocations to make sure that they incorporate disability-inclusive perspective, like accessibility and participation of persons with disabilities, particularly women, girls, and people of diverse OGSC. 2. Childcare support for women with disabilities must be provided so they can participate in community organizing and mobilization. H. Respect for the evolving capacities of children with disabilities, and respect for the right of children with disabilities to preserve their identities. This is a process of supporting the development of a child, maturation, autonomy, and self-expression. This is recognizing that children with disabilities progressively acquire knowledge, competencies, and understanding of their rights and participation in all discussions and decision-making impacting them. Children with disabilities have the right to preserve their identities and be registered at birth and other official documents. Examples: 1. A child with a disability takes part in the scheduling of home management and home-based rehabilitation activities with their parents and other siblings. 2. Children with disabilities lead in raising awareness to other children about safe and unsafe touch and proper hygiene. The general principles are the foundation of human rights model of the UNCRPD. It must be applied in its entirety in all undertakings of the government and non-government organizations. UNCRPD must reach local communities. Learning activity number 8. 1. Think about an activity, project, or program that you have in your organization. Using the UNCRPD general principles, how will you design or improve it? 2. Given the current UNCRPD general principles, will you still add other principles to it? If yes, what are they? Learning activity number 9. 1. Connect with an organization of persons with disabilities, whether local or national. Request a short interview with them. 2. Ask if they are familiar with the UNCRPD. 3. If they are familiar, ask how the UNCRPD affects their life. If they are not familiar, inform them about the UNCRPD, its content, including how it promotes and protects the rights of all persons with disabilities.